I'm Otto. I'm here at the Mysterious Bookshop in the Tribeca section of Manhattan, and we're going to talk about collecting and mysteries in particular. And today I'm going to talk about R. Austin Freeman. This is one of the great writers in the history of the form. He was a member of the Detection Club when it was the highest honor that could be paid to a mystery writer in the early years of the 1930s. There are several things for which he's well known, most famously creating Dr. Thorndike, a lawyer and a scientific detective. Unlike many other famous detectives of the era who cared about the person and examined the person to help understand who the murderer was, how to find the character. This was not the case with Thorndike. He only cared about things, clues, specific items that he could piece together and create a compelling case. He created Dr. Thorndike in a book called The Red Thumb Mark, which was published in 1907. This is a reprint. I'm only holding it here just to show you. There's the Red Thumb Mark, which is kind of nice. And this is just to tell you about the very first book. It's not collectible. It's a reprint, a hardcover reprint. It's $10, so it's not anything of significance as a collecting item. Later, about 4 years later, 1911, he created in this book, The Singing Bone, what is called the inverted detective story. The best way to explain that to you is with Columbo. Very early in the book, just as was true in the television series, you knew who the murderer was. And then the rest of the book, or the TV show, was spent showing how the detective would unravel what seemed to be the perfect crime by finding clues and making observations and deductions. He invented that form. As the Singing Bone, 1911, was the first inverted detective story. And this also is just a reprint. I'm just showing it to you. The first editions of these books, by the way, both the Red Thumb Mark and the Singing Bone, are extremely collected. They're both Haycraft Queen cornerstone titles, and the Red Thumb Mark is also a Queen's Quorum title, which is all the greatest short story collections of all time. To show you now some first editions. This is a Thorndike novel, The Penrose Mystery, and it's published by Hodder and Stoughton, which published most of his British firsts. Hodder and Stoughton, they weren't quite as consistent about how to tell a first edition, but this is typical of them. They would show, there's the title page, and then there'd be a copyright page where it shows first published. And if they were doing everything that they're supposed to do, they would say second printing, third printing, and so on. This is a first edition. It's not very expensive because the condition isn't very good. You can see there's a lot of wear on the cover and so on, so it's a $35 book. A little more interesting, perhaps, is this rather beautiful book called The Uttermost Farthing. This is out of the series. It's not a Thorndike. This is the American edition, the first American edition, and it's published in Philadelphia by the Winston Company. And the copyright page is like this. But in fact, I don't remember ever seeing a second printing published by Winston. I have two copies of that. This one is nicer than this one. So there's a price difference. Condition matters. Condition. This one's $300. And this is $200 because of the wear. It's still a nice copy. Since it's 1914, it's had a long life, but not quite as sharp as the other one. Now, in America, he was published almost exclusively by Dodd Mead. And Dodd Mead was also the publisher of Agatha Christie. They were a great publishing house, especially for mystery fiction. Here's a Thorndike story, As a Thief in the Night, and as you can see, it's got a very nice dust jacket. The book is in lovely condition. And Dodd Mead was really good about showing a first edition because they would do this. Here's the title page. You can see the date on the title page. And then on the copyright page, there would be nothing other than the copyright date. There's no description to suggest that it's anything other than a first edition. Here's another, with a dust jacket, because obviously dust jackets for almost 100 years ago are scarce. It's a $250 book. Here's another Thorndike book published by Dodd Mead, but without a jacket, and so it's not very expensive, $35. Again, you see the date on the title page, and on the copyright page, nothing to suggest that it's not a first printing. Further, Dodd Mead, this is another Thorndike book, and there's the title page, but on the copyright page, you can see it shows second printing. So it's easy to tell first editions with Dodd Mead because they only make an annotation on the copyright page when it's been reprinted. In addition to the Thorndike character, which is what he's most famous for, Freeman liked writing about criminals, rogues, thieves, even murderers. And here's an example of quite a scarce book. The Adventures of Shuttleberry, The Surprising Adventures of Shuttleberry Cobb. And again, this is a Hodder and Stoughton book, just like the first one that I showed you, with the copyright page showing the first book I showed you, it showed that it was first published on a certain date. This is not in this book, but there's also no indication that it's a reprint. So they're a little bit inconsistent, as I said. Here's another book. This one was not published by Hodder, published by Duckworth, and it's about Danby Croker, who is a thief. And Duckworth has at the bottom of the copyright page when it was first published, and would say second printing or so if there was a later printing. And finally, The Adventures of Romney Pringle. This is an American first edition. The British editions of Romney Pringle are extremely rare, very expensive, and he did this under a pseudonym. Instead of publishing it under his own name, he published it as Clifford Ashdown. And this is this is a later book, so it's not terribly exciting or interesting, but it's an interesting character. And what's interesting about Romney Pringle, the Adventures of Romney Pringle, is it's a Queen's Quorum title. It's that good, and it's the first mystery fiction that he ever wrote, and that was 1904, if memory serves. So there's one of the great Golden Age writers, R. Austin Freeman, and I think it's fair to say that he is a member of the humdrum school of writing, because they are not exactly exciting. Thank you for watching.